this stuff is going to hit different. Okay. I want to introduce you guys to this guy right here. His name is Cody Stace. Okay. He's a Marine Corps vet, a Hollywood Marine, right? Stationed out in good old Hawaii, 4 years active duty. Since getting out in 2015, Cody has built and scaled 4 separate businesses across multiple industries. His first company, a logistics operation. Within 1 year, he became the master carrier for every Home Depot in half the state of Michigan. After COVID forced him to pivot, Cody went back into the workforce at the C-suite level, the vice president of operations, general management, executive management, and change management across building, supply, distribution, manufacturing, restoration, construction, and logistics companies. That's where he mastered EOS. Today, Cody runs a consulting company installing and facilitating operating systems for corporate teams across the country, aka myself, Rob. I mean, we practice what we preach. We want to lead by example. We're actively working with them when it comes down to our constraints in our business, how we can scale, really making sure that as we work in the business, somebody can have a bird's eye view. And that is so crucial when it comes down to making sure that you can operate at a very high level. He'll tell you he learned everything the hard way. And that's what makes him fucking dangerous because, he's been in the trenches, you guys. So Cody, welcome, my guy. Appreciate you, brother.
What an introduction.
Hey.
Holy shit.
Hey, man. I want to dive right in, right? So for the people in our community who've never heard of EOS, and by the way, we've coined, MARWOC Operating System. We completely go through the subject matter expertise of Cody through the EOS system, entrepreneurial operating system. Please break it down, right? What is it and why has it helped over, I think it's like 280,000 businesses get traction?
This system, the reason I fell in love with it is, my own business, the logistics company, I was thrown into the biggest fire you could think of, right? I was 21 years old, had no idea what I was doing. And honestly, I started that business kind of out of anger. My parents, we kind of grew up not the best off financially. And so that kind of created its own anger. And then when I got out of the Marine Corps, I thought, okay, my parents are empty nesters now. They should be doing better. But due to the open heart surgery and a ton of heart attacks and a trip to the Mayo Clinic, it just wasn't the case, right? So I kind of hit this point where it's like, okay, either I become a statistic like a lot of my friends, or I do something crazy, because I don't have anything to lose. And so, yeah, that's what led me to the logistics company. I was like, you know what? I don't have anything to lose. Let's go. And I had a great mentor, a Navy veteran hired me. He was a contractor for Home Depot himself for the other half of the state, right? So he had one half and I ended up taking over the other half. It was really cool. But yeah, he kind of helped me get started, kind of paved the way for me and mentored me through some things. And I'm super blessed for him. And through the logistics company, I realized I was just winging it the whole time. And I never had time. I never had time to step back and actually realize that until it was all over. So I was making spread charts on the fly, and I was making phone calls while I was driving down the road, and I had no idea what an accountability chart was. I had no idea what a leadership meeting was. I had no idea what a quarterly meeting was. I didn't even know that there was quarters within the year at that point in my life. I was just a young kid running and gunning, and it wasn't until I got into the C-suite management that I really started learning about structure and accountability and how to actually get things to go and scale companies. And that's how I learned all of this. I worked for a few different companies to where they were already running these systems. And then kind of as I worked my way up the ladder a little bit with these different industries, I learned more and more. And then I actually became the integrator myself for a few of these companies. So then I really got it. And when I really got into it, I was like, I love this. I literally can't see business any other way than what I'm going to present to everybody today. And then at my last company, I was, second in command. So I was actually the one that paid the implementer to come in and help us. And I saw that check go out the door and I was like, oh no, I got to do this myself. I know this just as well as that person. And I know that my current boss isn't going to follow this the way that they should. Why not me? Why not me? I can do this. I have a great personality. I have a very unique background with the Marine Corps and the way that I grew up. And people are going to love this. And I bet on myself and I was right.
So I love that. Basically wanting to Thanos it yourself. So, Second question, like when you look at the 6 components, right? We have vision, people, data, issues, process, traction. Which one do you see entrepreneurs, like anybody in here, what when they're starting out, neglect the most, especially when it comes down to the beginning?
The first step. The
Vision.
first step's where everybody quits because they don't want to have the hard conversation. I'll tell you that with absolute certainty. Whether you're a solo, whether you're a solo operator or a team, you have to be able to look in the mirror and say, "Am I the problem?" Right?
Mm,
So
mm.
if you're a solo operator, you're sitting in all the seats. You're sitting as the visionary, as the integrator, the ops seat, sales and marketing seat, and the finance seat, and you have to honestly go through all 5 of those seats and say, am I doing this great or am I not? And if I'm not, I have to be willing to admit that I either need to outsource this or I need to hire somebody for this. I mean, it is that simple, but something that simple to, be honest with yourself is really hard for a lot of people. So yeah, that step number 1 is the hardest for everybody.
So vision, do you also see visions being a little too small? Like they automatically confine themselves, or when it just comes down to vision where accountability lies, where they have this grand vision, they just don't know how to be able to even take their first step, or a little bit of both.
A little bit of both. Yeah, some people, especially first time business owners, right? They're all gung ho, like, hey, I want to do this. I want to, make my own schedule. I want to make all this money. And as soon as they start moving, which is great, that's the first great step is to put things in motion. As soon as reality hits, your plan breaks in half, right? So you better have some good foundation and a good structure to withhold all of that.
Yep.
And yeah, usually when people start, they hit that reality checkpoint and they say, "Holy crap, am I really cut out for this?" Or like you just said, you've got dreamers, right? They've got 5 billion different ideas flowing at all times, right? And I know you're really good at that. You're
Guilty.
wicked smart person, right? But taking your insanely innovative thoughts and putting it into a hyper disciplined structure. I mean that's the formula to make magic right there.
It is true. And that's probably, guys, one of the biggest things when you come down to it, because everybody in here is aspiring real estate investor, right? Whether we have people locking up their first deal, right, from today, which is badass, to people who have done a couple, right? They're trying to expand, right? The elephant in the room, though, is most small businesses fail, and they don't make it past, year 2 or 3, right? So
Yeah.
from what you've seen in discussing that as well, like what are the top 2 or 3 reasons for these people in regards to solopreneur or companies, for the people on the team that hit a ceiling that they feel like they can't break through?
Yeah. So my dad used to tell me this same phrase all the time, right? That what was it, like 1 in every 5 businesses fail because you either bite off more than you can chew or you don't track your books the right way. And I mean, he beat that into me like crazy. And there is definitely some truth to that. But I think as I've learned more over the years, the biggest reason for failure is you start a business, you put all of the hard work into everything, you know everything inside and out, and then you want to grow, right? So you have to hire people. And it's the letting go that people struggle with. It's the uh man, I talk about this all the time. The best way I can describe this is you're a high performer, right, Trevor?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you're just gung ho, you know everything. And then you hire somebody and you want to hover over them and you want them to do it just like you do it. And it will never happen. So there's a big shift from being the high performer to leading high performers. And a lot of people struggle with that, and that's where they fail. So you have to be a leader. You have to be a leader. You have to be able to build people up. You have to be able to train them. There's processes to do this to make sure that you do that correctly, but ultimately that's what it comes down to. If you want to scale a company, you have to be able to let go of being the high performer and lead the high performers.
Yeah, that's my biggest issue, right? I would say that's a very big weakness for me because obviously, when it comes down to me being able to do it at a high level, having that gap of where it's not going to be, at that same level, it's a controlling aspect for me, right? And so,
Absolutely.
not allowing people to learn how to walk and give them a system to know left leg, right leg, left leg, right leg, and let them stumble. I make them walk for me.
Yeah.
And then again, it just falls onto me doing the work times 2 now. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yeah.
I do see a lot of people doing that. I guarantee you my team in here is probably like, yeah, bro, listen to Cody, my dude. But
Yeah.
it is tough. It is tough, but you have to fall back on the systems, right? And so I think when it comes down to that, and this is a selfish question for me because as we're learning
Yeah.
into this, everybody in here is pretty much a solopreneur, right?
Mhm.
Matt and Liz, who just got their first deal, now when they start getting a couple in there, they're probably going to want people to start calling for them. They're going to want to start doing certain things. So what's a quick, form of advice for people like me or people that are going to grow to kind of get out of that mindset? Like, what would be the first thing that you would recommend them doing in order to know that they need to relinquish that control and allow for some breathing room for, mistakes and errors to be able to grow this business?
Yeah. So the simplest way I can put it is every time that your business grows, there was a sacrifice that had to be made, whether it was time, whether it was money, whatever it is. There's always a sacrifice, a two steps back before you take that step forward. And being the high performer and then transitioning to leading the high performers is just another one of those steps. And if you look at it any way differently, you're just going to set yourself up for failure.
Mm.
You have to make the financial investment to hire the right person in the right seat, make sure that they're fully capable, train them properly, and let them go. And that's really hard to do. And that is the sacrifice that it takes. But then once you do that and you let them run and you let them flourish, that's the growth that happens. And a lot of people have a hard time with that.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, you're right. I tell people all the time, right? And we're about to start diving into the system a little bit, guys, because I'm really pumped to show you. But we say it all the time, right? You're either a visionary and integrator, very easy to kind of, at least take a test and figure out which one that you are. You can't be both forever. Even being both at the same time blows my mind. I'm like a textbook visionary, right? But what?
That's me, 91,
Yeah.
91.
Dude, there it is. Can you explain that dynamic and why it matters, especially for someone who's doing everything themselves right now? So
Yeah.
when it comes down to understanding your role, yeah, can you kind of explain the bottleneck behind that?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, visionaries are simple and hopefully you don't get offended, but they've got a billion ideas and then they're not going to follow through with any of them because that's just how their brain works. It's like business ADHD on steroids. That's what a visionary is. And then the integrator is like, okay, I'm taking this, I'm taking this, I'm taking this, I'm taking this. This actually works. This is stupid. This is a waste of time. This is what's actually going to get us there. Okay, shut up and let me go. Let me go execute this. And I mean, there's no clearer contrast than that right there.
So
Yeah.
coming up with that, how do you recommend integrators filling that void if they're just by themselves in their business?
Find a coach. Find a coach. Find a coach or a consultant. It doesn't matter if you're making $1,000 a year or 100 million. Everybody needs a coach. Nobody knows everything. Everybody needs a mentor. Everybody needs guidance. Everybody needs somebody that's going to put their foot in your butt and tell you, hey, you need to do this.
That's so true. That is so true.